Okay, we're continuing on with our notes. We're on page 20 of our notes, starting on redox stoic. So just stoichiometry, we went over last year, the intro to stoic, and from there. So the biggest things with it is just remembering that like the stoichiometric method is using to predict and analyze a quantity, so the amount of chemical involved in the reaction. So if we're given an amount of reactant, we can then find the amount of product and so on. Okay, titration is a common experiment. We did some titrations last year, so it's a common experiment designed to, or it's experimental design used to determine the concentration of a substance in a solution. Titration is progressive transfer of solution from a burette into a measured volume of sampled solution, often in an Erlenmeyer flask. So we did a couple of those last year with our acids and bases. Okay, the titration in the lab involves the following steps. Um, we aren't going to, because you don't have the proper equipment at home, we can't do one of these, but I will be posting a video on the process of doing titration, which is something that you do need to know for chemistry 30. Okay, but the biggest thing for it, so the reactant solution is placed into the burette, so that's our long, skinny, um, graduated kind of beaker thing. Okay, so yeah, so burette, so precisely marked glass cylinder with the stopcock at one end. So that's what you can allow the titrant to kind of move. The solution, the burette, is always called the titrant. Again, a known amount of sample solution is placed in an Erlenmeyer flask. Okay, so sample solution is always in the bottom in our Erlenmeyer flask. Initial reading of the volume of the titrant is made, okay, at the meniscus. So again, that's what's showing here. Okay, we have our meniscus, the bottom of the meniscus, okay, is where we would take our initial reading. The titrant is then added to the sample until the reaction is complete, which is shown by a color change, and the sudden change in property is called our endpoint. So again, the endpoint is when like that color change happens, okay, and we want it to be around our equivalence point, which we'll talk about next. So the final burette reading is taken, and the difference in the burette reading is the volume of the titrant added. The measured quantity of the titrant is the equivalence point. So again, with last year we did with acids and bases, we were trying to find the equivalence point where we're looking for a pH. Okay, now what we're looking for is the equivalence point is going to be when one of our reactants is used up. And so now it's changing colors because one of because yeah, we'll have a color change with the reaction for our redox stoich. Okay, the titrant is often repeated 3 times, or titration is often repeated 3 times to increase the reliability of the results. So that's what we did last year, is we repeated at least 3 times to make sure we got it done right. Okay, and then we do our calculations that are done. So those are the things we're going to mostly focus on now, especially because we can't do a lot of it because you're at home. So the example kind of here, like, or permanganate and dichromate ions are commonly used as oxidizing agents in redox titration since they have distinctive colors, okay, after reaction, and are very strong oxidizing agents. So example kind of here, okay, of showing like the half reactions for permanganate. So it is like a dark purple, okay, when it's permanganate, and then it goes to colorless when enough of its products are made. And so that's like when you're dropping it in, it usually goes colorless, and when it starts to turn pink or purple, that's when you know you're at your endpoint. Okay. Uh, dichromate turns green when it's producing its products. So as its reactants turning green, we know that the endpoint is when it turns orange. Okay, common colors. So if we aren't sure what colors like these are, again, are on page 11 in our data booklet. And color change, again, are extremely important because they're going to tell us the endpoint when looking at titration data.